Hey there, Loan Atlas community. It's Josh Mettle, and I'm here with my good buddy, Ryan Grant. Good to see you, Ryan.
Good to be here, man. Excited to do this.
We are going to talk about what I think is the most important thing for mortgage advisors to be focusing on right now in February 2025, which is lead conversion. And the reason why I think lead conversion is at the top of the totem pole, in my opinion, in terms of things that we can be putting our attention on, is because lead generation is not getting any easier. So if we're getting less at bats and we're getting less referrals from our agents and people are locked in place with their 3 and 4% mortgage rates, then we better get better at lead conversion. And I don't know anybody better at creating separation and creating connection with a customer and converting that lead into a client for life than Ryan Grant. So Ryan, with that, let's talk a little bit about lead conversion. Where do we start?
Well, I think right now there's multiple types of leads, but the real estate professionals that we're used to working with have really been habituated to only think of one type, right? Which is, I want to buy a home and I need to talk to a lender, right? That's when the light bulb goes off and they say, okay, talk to my lender, Dave. So we know that almost 9 out of every 10 people that are asked think it's a bad time to buy a house, right? We know that most homeowners are not eagerly looking to sell their home and go from a 3% to a 7% interest rate. So first thing we need to do is open up our agents' minds to the fact that if they can put every person in front of us, right? If they're talking to a homeowner, let us talk with them, right? If they're talking to someone who says, I'm not sure if it's the right time, I'm not really ready, let us talk with them, right? Or someone that says, I do want to buy a house and I'm already pre-approved. That is actually a pretty dangerous buyer because that agent can spend a lot of time with them and they would never actually transact because all they know is what they can do. They don't actually know if they should do it, right? So there's a lot more people that we should be talking to as mortgage professionals because we know that our job has changed, right? It used to be talk to someone who wants to buy a house, get them pre-approved, close that loan, do a great job, great customer service, and then repeat. Our job now is more education, analysis, strategy, timeline, helping people unpack what's best for them to allow them to go from I wonder to I should and I must, right? And so a really great mortgage professional is going to be a great converter in the sense of a lot more lead types.
So you're talking about the mortgage advisor really becoming the conversion arm for the realtor, right?
Yeah.
They're taking people who are interested, but they don't maybe have the right information or inspiration, and then certainly maybe don't know how to implement actually getting under contract, and the mortgage advisor taking that role on.
Yeah, you kind of think of it like a funnel, right? The agent is out talking to a lot of people top of funnel, and their job is to funnel them into you as, kind of the filter, right? And then you're going to filter people out into different segments. Like they're going to buy in 6 months. They need some time. This person actually should buy, as soon as possible. This homeowner should sell. This one should move up. This person so they're just dumping everything they can in. But what they need to do that is they need scripting and they need belief, right? They need to genuinely believe that, like, if I'm the real estate professional and you're my mortgage advisor that I work with, I need to have a deeply seated belief that the more people I get to talk to Josh, the better he will create an outcome for them. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get everyone to buy a house or sell their home. It just means you're going to get them to do what's ultimately best for them logically as opposed to emotionally.
I love it. So, I mean, that was a great visual of that filter, and they're top of the funnel and you're helping people down the funnel. So that was beautiful. So now if I'm going to be what you just described, the mortgage advisor that you need to move people down the funnel, that means that I have to have tremendous influence over the families that I serve. Well, I have to, first of all, know if they should move forward or not. And then if they should, I have to have the influence to get them to move. So how do we do that? As a mortgage advisor, do I gain influence? And how do I give that buyer the insight they need, assuming it's the right time for them to move forward? And maybe they're just afraid.
Yeah. The first key is financial literacy. Right? Like, as mortgage professionals, we need to really know what it means to be a holistic, well-rounded, financially successful homeowner. And what does it mean to go from one home to the next, or from rent to own, cost of waiting analysis? Like, we need to understand some of the macro pictures that are at play, so we can then boil that down to someone's micro situation, right? Someone's personal, unique situation, because it's just the math doesn't always show itself on the surface. You know this better than anybody. You, Drake, your whole team, like you guys have been phenomenal at helping people who have one thought and saying, well, would you be open-minded to, hearing some other options or things that I might think that might be helpful? And so really understanding finances, real estate, tax strategies, generational wealth planning, it's hard to give great advice if those things aren't really at the core of what we're trying to solve for. Now, let's assume that somebody's good at that or great at that. Second question is we just need to ask really great questions and get people to be open-minded that something else might be true besides what they have believed, right? Or what they have thought. More we can open someone's mind with great questions that make them think, I never thought about that. Or that's an interesting point. Or, yeah, I guess I didn't look at it that way. Like the more we can get people to be surprised by the information that we give them or the questions that we ask, the more they will lean in and say, okay, this person knows a lot more than your standard loan officer, right? And he's given me really great advice and great things to think through. And, maybe there's something to it, right? And then you have the opportunity to present and show them, hey, I know you have a 2.75, but going to 6.75 is actually going to make sense for your short-term and long-term goals. And here's why, right? Or, selling and moving down is going to make a really great impact in your life. Or now that you're having kids, like it's okay to move out of your rental into this property. And it's not all financial, right? Because finances oftentimes can be black and white, but we have to understand the emotional impact of this, the psychological impact of homeownership, the ancillary benefits of homeownership, like schools and safety and security and wealth building. Right. So if you can just really be great at all those things, and I know it probably sounds like there's a lot to be great at, influence becomes pretty easy because it's all you're doing is telling people what you believe and why you believe it. And you have the math and the knowledge and the histories and the stories to back it up.
Yeah, it made me think, inside of the Loan Atlas, there's 8 disciplines of origination mastery. And one of those disciplines is a process for sales. And there are, I think last time I looked, something like 50 modules on how to become a better salesperson. And really what that means is, how do you ask the right questions? How do you set up the conversations? How do you go deeper than the surface level so that someone actually tells you what's holding them back? I'm fearful of this market because my uncle said X, or my dad lost their home in the Great Recession, or I just, will feel better about buying a home when mortgage rates are 5%. Right. But are you thinking about the house might cost you an extra 25 or 50 grand by the time rates get there? Right. So it's piercing through that surface level relationship, gaining their trust, asking the uncomfortable questions sometimes, and then using that information to create influence and leverage to get them moving in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, we teach a process, a lot of this is in the Loan Atlas where, we start with a dreams and goals call, which is really just an intake or a discovery process where we are collecting what we call financial puzzle pieces, right? Because someone has a picture, right? Everybody has a picture. They have a current picture of their situation, but then they have a future picture of what they want to create. Right? Our job is to show them their current picture, right? And the holes that exist, and how if we can fill those holes through real estate, through managing liabilities, through, helping them in all the other ancillary areas of real estate and finance, that we can create a better future picture for them. But if we don't have the financial puzzle pieces, we can't put it together, right? We don't get to show them anything. And, we have to have the knowledge to be able to put it together, right? So questions is a great baseline for it. But I think the hardest part, Josh, is that if a real estate agent doesn't genuinely believe that that is a valuable and effective, use of the client's time, and they don't believe that it's going to have a substantial impact on their business in a positive way, we're never going to get to talk to those clients, right? So we have to get our real estate agents to be on those phone calls, to sit in our consultations, to watch how we can transform someone from I'm not sure to I can't wait. right? And then they start to realize, okay, there's really something to this, because we've never done this before as an industry, right? Nobody's expected this of a mortgage professional.
That skill to shift somebody's mindset to, I'm just going to sit over here and wait it out and wait for divine intervention when the perfect house shows up at the perfect interest rate on the perfect cul-de-sac at the perfect price, right? To move somebody from that disposition to here's why you should act now is such an incredible skill. And it reminds me, you talked a lot about asking great questions. One of the questions I learned from Phil M. Jones was, are you open-minded enough to learn about what might also be true? What else might also be true? So if somebody's stuck here, we have to ask questions that open their minds so that they're willing to learn about what else might also be true. In other words, I'm waiting for 5%, but are you open-minded enough to learn about what the house price will do as you're waiting for rates to go to 5% or whatever the issue is? But the quality of the question directly correlated to the quality of the outcome of being able to influence that customer.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's put this into an actionable instruction or action item for our listeners. If somebody is looking to go from here to there in terms of their authority and influence with customers and be able to become that conversion arm for the realtor to move people down the funnels, what are the 1, 2, or 3 action items that you would give them?
I would say 3 off the top of my head that I can think of. Action item 1 is arm your agents with scripting for every lead type. Right? How do you talk to a homeowner who is stuck? Right? How do you influence that homeowner to have a meeting with you? Right? Someone who says they're not ready, it's not the right time, they're not sure, I'm not, or someone who's, yes, I'm ready and I'm pre-approved. How do you get that person to talk to them? Right? So every lead type, your agent needs to be able to script a conversation in a way that influences that client to have a conversation with you as the mortgage professional.
Great.
Otherwise,
would that also include somebody who says, I want to buy a house, but I've decided this is a terrible time, I'm just not going to do it. So leave 100%. Me alone.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yep. Essentially anybody with a heartbeat. you want that person to get to you.
I'm ready, I'm not ready, or no. Great. Right. Give me a script for introducing all 3 people to me. Okay.
Yes. Step 2 is show proof of concept. Right? Because an agent's only going to do that a couple times, and if it doesn't work, they'll stop. Right. And so invite them into these conversations, right? Invite them into the consultations where you're educating and advising and influencing, right? And then they can watch it happen and say, like, why haven't I been doing this my entire career? Like, I don't have the skill set to do what Josh just did. I have the skill set to have great conversations with people and create relationships, but I'm missing the conversion side of this business. I'm just hoping that they decide on their own. That would be the second skill. The third is make sure you have the financial literacy to present and influence the consumer to make a decision that's in their financial best interest, even in the face of fear and a pretty scary emotion.
It's fantastic, Ryan. And I'm just, thinking about these skills that you're talking about is really what we teach inside of the Loan Atlas. And I'm just going to share one quick slide so people understand what we're talking about. So inside the Loan Atlas are the 8 disciplines of loan origination mastery that I talked about. And what we're talking about is a system for selling, right? This is how do you move people from I don't know to I can't wait, along with 8 other disciplines: accessional knowledge, marketing mastery, team building, systems for customer service, mindset, health, personal development, time and task management, and legacy and freedom. And what Tim teaches us is if you're missing any of these base camps, these disciplines, it's hard to get to the peak of mortgage origination mastery. And right now, arguably, the most important discipline that you can master is a system for selling, because as we started this video, lead generation is as hard or harder than ever. So Ryan, I'll leave you with the closing thought.
I think that the best thing that mortgage professionals can do right now is just have a clear understanding that what we've done for the last 20 years or so is fundamentally different than what we have to do moving forward.
So true.
We don't get to just help people close loans anymore. It's a rarity that we're going to get someone to come to us and say, I want to buy a home. I'm ready. I've never been pre-approved before. Please help me and let's get the loan closed. Now it happens, but it's definitely the exception, not the rule. The rule now is more and more people are uncertain. They're afraid. They're locked into their current mortgage and their current home. They don't know how to navigate the changes and evolutions of the market in their life concurrently. And if we can solve that problem, we can not only change this industry, but we can be the most valuable mortgage professional for our realtor partners, for our builders, for our financial planners, and for every client that we serve. So I would just say, dive into the loan atlas, understand the different disciplines that you have to have in today's modern era, and just focus on evolution, right? Focus on growth and improvement. What got us here is not going to get us where we want to go over the next decade. But the good news is very few people are going to do that work. So the people who do will have an incredible next 10-year run.
Ryan, that was so inspiring. And I think it was Darwin who said, it's not the fastest of the species that survive. It's not the strongest. It's the ones that evolve the quickest. So you heard it here first. Get after it, team. And if you found this insightful and valuable, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.